Hey guys, welcome to The Market is Open. Visit our website, themarketisopen.com. So we've been hearing a lot of great news out of Ford, which announced its new electric vehicle, the Mustang Mach-E. Everyone, even a lot of Tesla enthusiasts, seem to be loving the car, maybe not to seem so biased. Although it's good for the industry, I think Ford's concept car won't be good enough to compete with Tesla. I'm not as impressed as these other guys, so I'm going to take the other side and talk about why I believe this shows just how far ahead Tesla still is from the other automakers, including this 100-year-old company. But before we start, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate your support in helping us grow our channel. You can also check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/themarketisopen, and we'd really appreciate your support over there. Also follow us on Twitter at themarketisopen. So when Ford announced the Mach-E, everyone was like, wow, where did this come from? What an amazing car from Ford. Like, good work, Ford. The automaker that makes 6 million cars per year is finally serious about getting into the EV market, possibly in a year from now, if everything goes as planned. However, if we're going to be making investment decisions around this, we should be looking at some of the other dynamics at play here. Just over the last couple days since the announcement, Ford stock hasn't been acting too well. Tesla, of course, has had a massive run-up since the Q3 results, but I think Ford is a buy the rumor, sell the news sort of announcement because it's still going to take a lot more from Ford before the product is actually released. On the other hand, I think the Mach-E excitement has already died down and people are looking to Tesla for their revolutionary pickup truck design, which, as I've said before, is aimed at Ford because they're the leader in pickup trucks. But that aside, don't judge anything, I think, in the long term based on these short-term stock moves. Let's look at some aspects of Ford and the Mach-E and the car buying experience in 2019 and beyond. Okay, so first off, the Mustang Mach-E looks okay. I personally don't care too much for the front look. To me, I always see like a face when I look at the front of a car, and this one looks like a clown or something with a weird smile. But that's besides the point. A lot of people buy ugly cars. But this is a Mustang, which seems to be the first thing that causes a lot of brand confusion. I think it's confusing because the Mustang is known to have a specific look and feel, and you can't just call anything you want a Mustang. In my opinion, I think it's like putting a sticker on something that isn't a Mustang. This is a Mustang, so I think the fact that it's an SUV, the Mach-E Mustang, sort of rules out the regular Mustang buyers, which are about 100,000 per year, and those are the people that are interested in buying Mustangs, and they're sort of going to be excluded from this segment. It seems that Ford is trying to avoid cannibalization, and it still wants to sell its regular ICE Mustang vehicles. So I think that people are being a little bit too quick to congratulate Ford. It seems like they are only sort of in this EV game. The Mach-E will have to find a whole entirely new market. So the market for Mach-E is people who don't really care too much about Mustangs. And so Ford is sort of starting at square one here with a car that's in no man's land per se. Like, it doesn't really appeal to people that like Mustangs because this isn't a Mustang, and it doesn't really appeal to people who aren't interested in Mustangs because this is supposed to be a Mustang. Now, if you are looking at the Mach-E, Ford says that the fun part is going to be choosing your model. Now, I think this is where the automakers get destroyed. This is what killed every phone maker except for the strongest ones. The Mach-E is going to be long-term just one of the many models of electric vehicles that Ford says they're going to come out with over the next couple of years. And then within this model of the Mach-E, there's about 5 different models. And not only that, but each one has a different battery range and performance variant. So you basically need to do tons of research to figure out which of these cars you want. Compare this to Tesla, who's aiming for one car in every category, and the Model Y is going to be the direct competitor to the Mach-E. So if you're looking at competitors such as the Model Y is simply one car and you just choose your range and acceleration. So simpler is better. Like, maybe people forgot what happened to every phone company in the world after Apple came out with the iPhone. Apple had one phone, like super simple. And competitors were like, well, how do we compete with this iPhone? Well, we're going to just flood the market with all sorts of different types of phones so people have a variety to choose from. Of course, choice is great, and they'll be able to choose the phone that they're looking for because we're making every permutation we can think of. So surprisingly, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but it's way easier to pick the one thing that you want than to have to choose from a million different models. Not only that, but this causes like a ton of overhead for Ford in order to support all of these variants and models. The next problem that I think Ford has is that they're going to be selling their Mustang Mach-E through dealerships. I think people hate dealerships. It's almost like going to the dentist. Like you always get screwed over when you're going there. And it's also a middleman between Ford and the consumer. So it just shows people that Ford doesn't actually care about the consumer once they sell you the car. Like people hate going there, and so I think it's part of like one of Tesla's innovations, which isn't really an innovation. It's just a better business model, which is to cut out the middleman that everyone hates. And that has some of its advantages, such as making the company like Tesla more profitable, and you can also pass the savings on to the consumer. So because the dealerships are profitable by cutting them out, I mean, Tesla can sort of choose what they want to do with that money. And Tesla has also chosen to make their service centers not profit centers, meaning they're not going to try to make a profit on their service, which they offer to people. And you could see that in Tesla's financial statements. They do lose quite a bit of money on services. And so Ford is going the opposite way, and they're going to be charging people a hefty sum, like basically from the dealerships. The dealerships are going to be charging people to fix their cars over time. Anyways, the dealerships love it when your cars break because that's how they make their money. So either they're not going to want to sell you an EV that doesn't break as much as an ICE car, or they're going to want to sell you an EV that breaks. So, like, wait a minute, what did Ford do here? It seems like they copied Tesla for their car controls, but they added some weird thing into the center of the screen. It's like a knob that sticks out of the glass screen. I think the dealerships are going to love this thing. And I'm also betting that it's the first thing that breaks in the car. Basically, what Ford's added is a moving part in the middle of the glass screen, sort of, I guess, to control the volume or something like that. It's kind of funny, like Steve Jobs has this great quote where he says, "We don't want to be different, we just want to be better." And I think this is different and worse. People are going to get super upset about this thing. Like, how does Ford even manufacture it? It must be a huge pain in the ass. They have this like beautiful giant glass iPad, and yet they need to cut a hole in it to insert this piece of plastic and then another piece of glass because it has like an LCD screen in the middle of it. And then they lose all of the real estate because this useless knob is in the middle. Like, what was the point of having a big screen in the first place? So I think like this is definitely guaranteed to be the first thing that breaks in everyone's car. Steve Jobs was like, "Oh, we solved buttons by having this bitmap screen." And Ford's like, "Yeah, we totally screwed it up by adding some plastic knobs into the middle of our bitmap screens." Like, it's overly complicated for no real benefit, except for maybe changing the volume with your eyes closed, but you should be able to do that with the steering wheel buttons. Anyways, enough of this. It is cool that they have a second screen, which adds more to the cost as well. I think there's no way they compete on price with Tesla. Let's add a second screen. The Model X has this, but it is double the price. So speaking of price, Ford says that they'll be profitable from the get-go. I think if you ignore the billions of dollars that they're going to be spending on this program, then yeah, maybe they'll be profitable. Or maybe they'll have positive gross margins. So actually, Ford's gross margins are about 15% across their entire business. So, I mean, you could look at that as if they give everyone who bought a car 15% off, in addition to whatever you, like 15% off of whatever you paid for the car, like Ford would make no money. So they do have pretty low margins across their business, but for the Mach-E, they will start with the more expensive variants, which is what Tesla did, so that's pretty smart. Except that Tesla had basically no competitors for its unique product when it first came out, and Ford will have a competitor, which is Tesla's Model Y, to worry about. So Mustang customers will have to pony up about $44,000 starting price, which is sort of a little bit more expensive than the Model Y, starting at $39,000. But Ford will have the $7,500 tax credit in the U.S. for its first 200,000 buyers, and then the tax credit will be cut a couple months later, just how Tesla's was cut. But the specs are pretty terrible at that price. So first off, the Mach-E is targeting a certain acceleration, doesn't show much confidence. Tesla does have a proven track record here, and they usually outdo their numbers that they set for themselves. Ford doesn't even seem to be setting a target time for their acceleration. In my opinion, their accelerations are a little bit wishy-washy. They say 6 to 7 seconds, like they're not really sure what the acceleration is. That tells me the car isn't really ready at all yet. It seems to just be in the concept state, and it's still going to take them a while. They're probably going to be late when they're trying to deliver this. Anyways, I don't even think I have all of the variants here, but the ranges go from about 210 miles in range to 300, and it's sort of funny. Like, actually, as you pay more for the higher performance, your range gets hit pretty badly, actually. Just shows you how much better Tesla is. Tesla right now has just 3 models available for pre-order for the Model Y, which comes out next summer. And once the Model Y gets more mature, I think Tesla usually switches up the variants a little bit. They throw in the cheaper Standard Plus version, and they remove one of the long range ones, so they still have 3 options usually. So Ford has like a ton of variants here, but if we look at the Select version, which is only rear wheel drive, 230 miles in range, that's like the lowest Model Y as well. However, the acceleration is between 6 to 7 seconds. That's pretty poor. Model Y is probably targeting around 5.9 seconds, I think Tesla was saying. And the price for the Model Y is going to be about $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper. Now, Ford has like too many variants to figure out, but if we go all the way to the high end, if you're paying the most money, and we don't really exactly have the price here because they have so many different models, but if you want the all-wheel drive version, probably around 250 miles, maybe even less because you added the word performance there, and Ford takes a hit on performance. And you want to accelerate from 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds, which is also around the fastest Model Y, then you're going to be paying quite a bit, and your range is going to be hit. So let's compare that to Tesla's for simplicity. So in terms of the Model Y, they don't have the standard version out yet, but it will likely have 230 miles in range, acceleration 0 to 60 at 5.9 seconds, and starting at $39,000. If we go all the way to the high-end Tesla, now the acceleration is 3.5 seconds 0 to 60, but you still get the 280 miles. Like the Teslas don't really drop too much going from long range to the performance versions with the all-wheel drive. So at around the same price points compared to the Ford, you get way more bang for your buck with the Tesla. But also, I think Tesla usually lowers the price once it goes into production and once they boost up their scale, which is what they did for the Model 3. For Ford, on the other hand, I think they will actually not raise price, but I think the price is actually higher than what they've said, because they say that that's the starting price, and Tesla throws in pretty much everything they have at the prices that they show. The only thing you need to add for Tesla is like the self-driving, but Ford probably has all of these little features and trims that you need to add in. Now, speaking of self-driving, Ford didn't really show much of its software, but since the car is now just like software on wheels, I'm guessing that Tesla is leaps and bounds ahead, especially with the autopilot and their self-driving features like the Smart Summon. Really, I think Tesla doesn't really have much competition here. Ford says that they're going to have self-driving stuff, but there's really no evidence of that yet. Tesla does have real features that you can try right now if you have a Model 3 or Model S or Model X. Ford doesn't seem to have anything. And I think this will be a pretty big differentiator. It's kind of like the difference between having an OS X software on your iPhone versus your Nokia flip phone that lets you play Snake. Now, moving along, 2 of the main things that Elon Musk has said that helps sell Teslas are service centers and superchargers in order to get around the country. So I'm actually not sure that Ford has service centers capable of fixing the Mach-E. I think they're going to have to invest like millions of dollars to train employees on both ICE and EV vehicles. So, I mean, they already know how to fix the regular ICE cars, but now there's a whole new different type of vehicle that they will need training for. So, I mean, Tesla just needs to focus on one. Also, like, I think the dealer networks are going to be the ones, like, who's going to be paying for this? Is it the dealers or Ford? It sounds like a bit of a mess, if you ask me. In terms of the charging stations, Ford doesn't really have any. I believe they're partnering with Electrify America, which has a few throughout the country, really not enough compared to Tesla, so I think that's going to be a bit of a headwind. Tesla does have a pretty robust network of charging stations, and they're adding more constantly, and their charging stations are going to be a little bit faster than the ones that Ford is using in its partnership. So I think it's kind of funny that Ford was making fun of Tesla at the beginning when Tesla first hit 7,000 cars. Elon tweeted 7,000 cars in 7 days, and then somebody from Ford tweeted 7,000 cars in 4 hours. So that's still fairly true. Ford does produce more cars than Tesla, but obviously now that Ford's getting into the EV business, we're going to see how difficult it is for Ford to ramp up. So I think the joke in the end is going to be on Ford. Also, it was pretty funny that Elon congratulated Ford on their Mach-E. He sounded pretty serious about it. I do think he wants more competitors in the space. It does like lower the price, and competition is good for the industry. It'll help Tesla, I think, be more refined, and it'll also help, as I said, lower the price for different components, I think, that go into Teslas if they're going to be much more in demand and they're going to be at a high, being sold at a higher scale. Also, the name Mach-E is pretty funny because when Tesla wanted to name their Model 3, the Model 3 was originally supposed to be called the Model E. And when Tesla tried to do that, Ford threatened to sue them because Elon was trying to spell the word sexy with the Model S, Model E, or Model 3 now, Model X, and the Model Y. But I think like now Ford is like mocking Tesla with the Mach-E. I don't know. There must be some joke in there somewhere. Okay, so back to my first point was that at the beginning of the video, I said that I think it's weird that, again, all of the YouTubers and even Tesla tubers are overwhelmingly positive on the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So I'm usually a bit skeptical when I see something like that. That's the same thing that we saw with the Chinese company NIO, where everyone gave NIO a free pass and they were super excited about this amazing car from NIO, which they had never even seen or tried. Yet, of course, at the same time, Tesla has always scrutinized every step of the way, which is a little bit odd. But I think maybe it's made Tesla a stronger company than these other guys. But for NIO has dropped about 80% since we pointed out on our main channel, The Market is Open, a whole bunch of problems with their business model and their car sales. The stock was at about $8 back then, and now it's at about $1.80. So I think in this case, people seem to be giving Ford a free pass as well. They just assume that if Ford can make 6 million regular ICE cars, then they can easily ramp up electric cars. Well, throughout this video, we've pointed out a few headwinds with that business model, their dealer network, the lack of charging stations, good software autopilot, etc. But also, like, where is Ford's Gigafactory? Like, are they making batteries now? Like, how are they getting these batteries? Like, keep in mind that Tesla was once supplying powertrains for Toyota, so making motors and batteries isn't so easy. And we've seen that BMW and Nissan and Chevy for the Bolt have big problems, which result in higher cost and reduced efficiency due to their lower quality motors and batteries. So based on the specs that we've just seen from Ford, that Ford is given, I think that we're seeing the same thing over here. And so I don't think people will pay a premium dollar to get 20 or 30% less range of performance than a Tesla. So I also think that a lot of the things that Ford is doing, like selling through dealerships and making every dreamable model and permutation of variants, are things that have worked in the past, but the industry has changed with Tesla, and I think people will gravitate more towards the online ordering experience and having a few simple yet solid choices. So I think overall, Ford has spent billions of dollars and will need to continue spending billions to bring this car to market. I actually think that they risk being DOA, dead on arrival, because Model Y comes out first and Tesla's been aggressively cutting the price and making the most efficient car that they can possibly make. Also, although the Model Y is new, it's not really their first version because the Model 3 shares about 75% of the parts as the Model Y. So I think the Model Y will be quite refined from the get-go. Also, Ford seems to be like halfway out the door in terms of EVs. So like, I'm not sure why people are congratulating them really. Like when they announced their vehicle, they even still had like gas-powered Mustangs as part of the announcements. Like, are they going electric or not? Like, it doesn't seem they really care too much about the environment, whereas Tesla's whole business and the whole mission is focused on converting everyone onto sustainable energy. It seems that Ford is just trying to comply with like new consumer tastes and laws that are coming out. So I think consumers will notice that when they choose with their money which brands of cars to support. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. We'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would greatly support us. And thank you so much for watching.